What's up guys, Dakota from CGL Fishing here. Today I'm going to go over the Carolina rig, everything you need to rig it and how to rig it, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that all right here. First off, with the Carolina rig, the big thing is, what is it for? So anytime you're using any kind of live or cut bait, a Carolina rig is probably going to be a good option for you. Probably one of the most common rigs to use for catfish. It's also used for saltwater fishing, for red drum, just about anything. Like I said, it's a very universal, well-known, easy-to-use rig, and it's pretty easy to make a few minor changes to make a Santee rig or something like that. So let's hop into it. All right, first things first, let's go over what you need to make a Carolina rig. So first of all, you're going to need some fishing line. We've got two different kinds of fishing line here. I've got 50-pound big game trilene, and I've got some 14-pound trilene extra tough. I use 50-pound for catfish, and I use the trilene 14-pound for my bait rods, things like that. You're gonna need some beads. A lot of people use glass beads. To me, the most important thing on beads is cheap. They're just there to protect the knot, and we'll go over that a little bit. You're gonna need weights. So I use these, I don't know what they're actually called, but these little flat weights a lot. I also do use these sometimes, the round weights. Either one is fine, but you're gonna want a variety of weights. You're gonna need swivels. These are a good example of some cheap swivels you'll usually find at Walmart or something like that. There's nothing wrong with those, but when you're going for bigger fish, you may want to try something like this. And I mean, I show a few different brands here, but these are actually, you can see that's a teeny little swivel there, and that's actually rated for 50 pounds. This larger one is rated for 230 pounds. So you can, whatever you feel like you need. I typically will use mainly the cheap ones, and then I'll have a couple rigs tied with some heavier duty stuff when I'm going for big catfish. I'll throw that on like the big rod. And then you're also going to need, last but definitely not least, the hook. So I use circle hooks. I got a few different sizes and types set out here. You can use any hook. I actually usually tie some with an Aberdeen hook. You can use different kinds, whatever you need for the type of fishing you're doing. And then I show this. This is not a necessity, but it is nice sometimes to have a snap swivel on your line. This is a cheap one. This is a 170-pound rated one. They're great for if you need to switch out rigs fast, or if you're maybe changing the type of fishing you're doing. So they're good for stuff like that. All right, let's hop into, one more other thing. These braid scissors. These are like $4 scissors, guys, at Walmart. They are awesome. You can use a knife. You can use regular scissors, but these little cheap braid scissors are great to have on you. All right, guys, so now we're gonna start tying the actual rig. So I'm gonna use one of the 100-pound little swivels. I should probably use a bigger one to make it a little easier to see, but this is the one I really want. I want to have a couple nice ones, and I don't have the other swivels all pulled out. So we're gonna run our line, and this is the 50-pound trilene still attached to the roll. We're gonna run our line right through the eyelet of the swivel and pull out some slack. At this point, you're gonna tie your favorite knot. I'm gonna show you mine in case you don't have a favorite knot. For a thick line like this, because it is mono, it's pretty thick, it's hard to deal with. I like to do a knot, and I don't know what it's called, this is how it goes. So you're gonna grab the swivel in your fingers like this, and the way you grab it, you're gonna kind of pinch the line into a corner, and you're gonna take this end of the line and go underneath the other and make a loop. Okay, so when you do that, you're gonna grab that loop. So I'm still holding the swivel, you can kind of see there, still holding the swivel, pinch the line, grab the loop. Do it again. Go under, wrap around, pinch, go under, wrap around, pinch. Now, this last time, you're gonna go over the loops you just created. So we're holding 3 loops. You're gonna go through the back of the loops, just like that, and you're going to pull it to this point, and now we're going to pull it but not all the way tight. So we're pulling it up to about there. We're going to wet it, a little bit of spit, and then pull until tight. Dry it off. So if you look at this, you can kind of see it's an ugly knot, but it really works. So you may have to grab the end of your swivel, pair of pliers on these, especially on these smaller swivels, and pull to really cinch that down. And you should have something like this, right? Sometimes it'll look a little prettier, sometimes uglier, but I've never had this knot fail. So looking at this, you want to make sure that your line is not tangled up here. Sometimes you will have where a piece of the line will get tangled up here, and you need to push all that down to get a nice clean knot. Now we're going to cut our tag off. Now we're not going to cut it all the way down because there is a possibility of the knot slipping some. So I like to leave, you know, 1/4 inch or so. And then we'll pull out maybe 8 inches of line and cut it. So now you've got your swivel attached to about an 8-inch piece of line, and you're going to put a bead on here. So before I do that, I'll show you why. So if we were to put the weight directly on here like this, the weight with its edges that you can see are not necessarily the smoothest is going to come and butt right up against your knot. The knot will fit partially inside the hole, and it could cause issues. So the reason for the bead is a nice round surface, and it will sit there and protect your knot. However it goes, whether the tag goes inside or outside, it's protected. So you do that, and then you run your weight on there. It shouldn't matter which way you have the weight facing. And then you're going to take a second bead and put it on there to protect the second knot. So you should have a swivel, bead, weight, bead. And now we're going to put our second swivel on, which I have lost. So you're going to take your second swivel, and we're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to stick it on there, pull it, and you're going to pinch it and wrap it around and get those 3 loops. And then you're going to go through the back of the loops, pull tight, tighten it up just a little bit, wet the line, and cinch. Nice and tight. And then we'll trim off our tag, leaving just a little 1/4 inch. So now what you should have is you should have a swivel on each end, followed by a bead, and then in the very middle you should have your weight. Alright, after that we're getting to the next piece. So now you're going to put line directly from your spool, and you're going to run it through one of the eyelets that you just did. It doesn't really matter which size you do. I'm a little funny in that I like the fat side of a flat weight to be toward the pole, which would be this way. And the reason for that is, in my mind, I figure there's a better chance of the bait getting a little bit of freedom to move if the skinny end. I don't think it actually works that way, but in my mind it does. So we're going to tie the same exact knot here. We're going to get our 1 loop, 2 loop, 3 loop, push that tag in through the back, start tightening it up, wet it down real good, and cinch. And now we don't have to use pliers anymore because we can just pull this way. Just make sure you don't pull so hard you tear your line up. Alright, this is exactly what I was pointing out earlier. See how the line is tangled up? So now what we're going to do to fix that is we're just going to use our nail if possible. We're going to push that loop down. It might take you a minute. You got to kind of get in some weird positions. But you can get that loop over it just like that and then cinch it. Give it a good cinch. And you're good. And that actually turned out to be kind of a relatively pretty knot. Like I said, I know it seems odd that some of the knots look different and all that, but I've never had this knot fail before. I've rarely had the line fail, but if the line has failed, the knot's still been there. All right, cut that. Leave our little tiny tag. And now it's depending on how long you want your Carolina rig to be. You decide how much line. I'm gonna go for, I don't know, pull out about that much. Cut it. And now you're gonna attach your hook. I am using a Mustad Demon Point circle hook. You can see those. I got the idea from Justin from Catfish. And you're gonna tie the same exact knot that we tied on all the swivels on this as well. I've been told there's a certain way you're supposed to tie the hook. I honestly don't remember what the right way is. I don't think it matters personally. I know some people are very particular about that, but I don't think it matters. I'm just gonna face it this way so it doesn't stab me as much when I hold it. All right, pinch. 1, 2, 3 loops through the back. Wet it down and cinch. Cinch down pretty good. Got our tag. And that's that. So this, some people will snell their hooks on. I've just never messed with that. A knot works fine for me. And then now we've got, I don't know, it's probably about 20, 24 inches. This is our Carolina rig. So when I tie this to the line, I'll usually use a Polymer or Palomar knot because it's braid. You can also, like I said, use a swivel, and you just attach your line to your swivel back here, and then you put your eyelet on there. It's all up to how you want to do it. So this is what I usually use for catfish. If you would like to see what I use for bait fish, I will do that now. And it's really the same thing. So now I'm using the Trilene 14 pound. I'm going to use the cheap swivels because I want smaller swivels, and I don't need them to be weight rated because I'm not really catching anything crazy. These swivels should definitely hold the 14 pounds that the line is rated for. I don't always use the same knot on this because this lighter line, I don't think it's as big a deal. There's other knots that I can tie, but in this case, for consistency, we'll stay with the same one. I will say it's a lot easier to tie, and look how pretty that knot is. I don't know how well it's focused, but it turned out good. Snip. Here, snip. And everything is literally exactly the same. I'm going to use smaller beads on this one just because I happen to have them. I usually just buy one size, but I bought some Walmart pack or whatever. And then I'm going to put a 3/4 ounce. I'm going to use a round weight this time. I will use the 1 ounce flat weight sometimes. Just kind of depends on what I have. Alright, so I got my 2 beads on there. Take my other swivel. And through. Oh, I made that ugly. Wet and pull. So we got the same basic structure again. Grab our line directly from the spool again. I'm going to run it through. Get our loops. With a lighter line, you could probably use less than 3 loops, but I don't know. Unless I'm in a hurry or got wet hands or something, I'll usually do 3. And then, didn't open up these hooks. We're going to throw one of these Aberdeen hooks on here. The best Aberdeen hooks I found, guys, were, and I don't normally recommend Bass Pro per se. Oh, I forgot to cut this. I don't necessarily recommend Bass Pro because I find that they're much more expensive than other stores, but their multi-pack Aberdeen hooks are not a bad deal, and the hooks are really good. For whatever reason, they just seem to hold up a lot better. I'm going to try these mustads out just because I could find them. And I'm not a big fan of eagle claw hooks. That's the other big name one. I didn't give myself much to work with here. Didn't give myself much of a tag to work with there, but we got it. Tangled up on this. Pull. Cinch it down. And there you go, guys. That is a Carolina rig, this time with a Aberdeen hook, 3/4 ounce weight, cheap swivels. Very easy to do. It's not hard at all. Now, I will show you this. Let me grab something out of my bag. Alright, so if you were, say you wanted to fish a, I'm going to show you this on the small rig just because I got a, well, no, it'll be easier to see with the big thick line. Alright, so if you were, let's say you made a Carolina rig and you decided partway through the fishing trip you really wanted to use a Santee rig. The right way to do that would be to cut the hook off, run your cigar float down here, put everything back together, tie it on. The lazy and easier way to do that, but won't last as long, is just to clip a bobber on there. So I got this little, I don't even know if I can get it over this 50-pound line actually. Yeah, I can't. Anyway, I can't get it over the 50-pound line, but you just clip this on in line, you know, move it to where you want it, probably about halfway, and you got a little makeshift Santee rig. Not the ideal way to do it, but it definitely works. So that's that, guys. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you get your gear ready for your next trip. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. If you want to see me do any more tutorials like this, let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, I really would appreciate it, trying to grow the channel. And yeah, thank you guys. I'll catch you on the next one, and keep on fishing.